Have you ever woken up on a Saturday morning with the absolute ironclad intention of finally starting that M-shaped project we talked about? Maybe you were going to write the first 3 chapters of your book, or finally dive into the deep end of that data science course. But then, before your feet even hit the floor, you reached for that glowing rectangle on your nightstand. "Just 5 minutes," you whispered to your prefrontal cortex. Fast forward to 2 p.m. You are still in your pajamas, you are surrounded by half-eaten snacks, you have somehow transitioned from a quick email check to watching a 45-minute documentary on how medieval monks made blue ink from crushed beetles. Your neck is stiff, your eyes feel like they've been rubbed with sandpaper, and despite having done nothing, you feel more exhausted than if you had just run a marathon through a swamp. Welcome to the dopamine hangover. As your resident mind decoder, I am here to tell you that you aren't lazy, you don't lack character, and you haven't lost your grit. What you have done is accidentally redlined your biological operating system. You've been drinking from a high-pressure fire hose of cheap dopamine for so long that your brain has performed a tactical retreat. If our previous conversations were about the geometry of your career and the neuroscience of quitting, then today is about factory settings. We are going to talk about how to hit the hard reset button on your reward system in exactly 24 hours. To understand why your brain feels like a fried potato, we have to look at the chemistry of seeking. We've all been told that dopamine is the molecule of pleasure. We think we get it when we eat a croissant or get a like on a photo. But neuropsychology tells a much grittier story. Dopamine is actually the molecule of anticipation. It is the chemical of more. Back in our kind ancestral environment, dopamine spikes were rare. You found a berry bush? Spike. You caught a fish? Spike. These spikes were earned through high-effort physical survival. But today, we live in a wicked stimulation environment. Silicon Valley engineers have taken our ancient survival hardware and plugged it into a 24/7 digital slot machine. For the scanner, or the high-functioning multitasker, this is particularly lethal. Because your brain is naturally tuned to seek out new information and perform far transfer between disparate ideas, you are hyper-vulnerable to the novelty high. You think you are researching, but neurologically, you are just a pigeon in a Skinner box, pecking at a glass screen for a random reward. The biological result is a phenomenon called downregulation. Think of your brain like a high-end stereo system. When you blast the volume at 100% for 10 hours a day, the system tries to protect itself. It turns down its internal sensitivity. In the brain, your dopamine receptors literally retract. You achieve a state of homeostasis at a much higher level of stimulation. This is your current pain. Because you are constantly overstimulated by cheap dopamine, notifications, infinite scrolls, rapid context switching, the expensive dopamine of deep work no longer registers. When you sit down to do the dry work of your stability pillar, your brain perceives it as physically painful, not because the work is hard, but because it is stimulation poor. Your brain is looking for a 10 out of 10 hit, and your work is only offering a 2 out of 10. You feel restless. You feel brain lag. You start to believe that you've lost your passion, when in reality, you've just fried your antennae. If you're an introvert, this is even more taxing because you already have a high sensory processing sensitivity. You are trying to process a fire hose of digital noise on top of an already busy internal world. The dopamine detox is the solution to this chemical coup d'etat. Now, I know the word detox sounds like something you'd find in a trendy juice bar in Los Angeles, but in neuropsychology, we call it intention-based recalibration. We're going to intentionally move the pain side of the seesaw to force your brain to build back those antennae. We aren't asking you to move to a monastery or throw your laptop into the Rhine forever. We are asking for 24 hours, one single rotation of the Earth, to prove to your basal ganglia that you are still the one driving the bus. We are going to move from being seekers of sparks to being architects of focus. But before we get to the how, we have to understand the specific rules of the 24-hour reset and why boredom is actually the ultimate neuropsychological weapon. So, if boredom is the weapon, then silence is the ammunition. To understand why we're about to spend the next 24 hours doing things that would make a Victorian accountant look like a thrill seeker, we have to look at the default mode network, or the DMN. In the world of neuropsychology, the DMN is the part of your brain that activates when you aren't focused on the outside world. It's when you're daydreaming, reflecting, or simply staring at a tree. For the scanner brain, the DMN is where the magic of far transfer happens. It's the workshop where your interest in medieval beetle ink finally shakes hands with your data architecture project. But when you are constantly hijacked by cheap dopamine, your DMN never gets the mic. You are so busy seeking that you've stopped connecting. The 24-hour reset is designed to starve the seeker and feed the integrator. We begin at sunset on Sunday. From that moment until sunset on Sunday, you are entering a high-friction zone. The rules are simple but biologically brutal. No screens, that means no just checking the weather or one quick podcast. No processed sugar, we are cooling down the insulin spikes alongside the dopamine spikes. No music or artificial audio, we want to hear the actual frequency of your own thoughts, as terrifying as that might sound. During the first few hours, your brain will go into a state of protest. You will experience phantom vibration syndrome, where you feel your phone buzzing in your pocket, even though it's in a drawer in the other room. You will feel an itchy, restless irritability. In psychology, this is the extinction burst, the phenomenon where a habit gets more intense right before it dies. Your basal ganglia is screaming for its pellet. Do not panic. This restlessness is the literal sound of your dopamine receptors upregulating. Your brain is beginning to build more antennae because it realizes the fire hose is gone and it needs to find smaller, quieter signals to survive. By the time you reach Sunday afternoon, something miraculous happens. You've moved through the boredom barrier and entered a state of cognitive calm. Suddenly, the dry work of your primary pillar doesn't look so dry anymore. Because you've lowered the volume of your life, the quiet music of a complex task becomes audible again. You might find yourself wanting to read that difficult book or organize those open loops simply because your brain is desperate for a challenge that satisfies. This is the Einstein asset in action. By clearing the sensory clutter, you've reclaimed your cognitive surplus. You've gone from being a dash-shaped consumer to being an M-shaped creator. As you re-emerge after 24 hours, you will notice that the first expensive thing you do, whether it's solving a coding problem or playing an instrument, feels incredibly vivid. It's like a person who has eaten nothing but spicy chili for a year and finally tastes a ripe peach. The flavor is overwhelming. You haven't changed your IQ, but you have reclaimed the selective attention required to use it. You've proven to your prefrontal cortex that it can survive without the digital slot machine. So, let's put the map together. You aren't broken or lazy. You were just caught in a wicked stimulation environment that was designed to harvest your attention. The 24-hour reset isn't a cure-all, but it is a vital calibration tool. It clears the mental RAM, closes the background apps, and allows you to return to your M-shaped path with a quiet, polymathic confidence. The self-blame ends today. You aren't a dabbler who lacks grit. You are an integrator who needs a clean slate. The hook for your Saturday reset. Your brain doesn't have a delete button for bad habits, but it has a hard reset that only takes one day to activate. Stop being the product of an algorithm and start being the architect of your own chemistry. Recalibrate the seesaw, embrace the boredom, and you'll find that the focus you thought you lost was just waiting for the noise to stop. It is time to reclaim your factory settings. To help you survive these 24 hours without losing your mind, I have created a new free PDF guide called the 24-Hour Reset Playbook. It contains the exact high-friction activities for each stage of the day, a boredom journal template, and a survival guide for that mid-afternoon extinction burst. You can download it using the link in the description. If you found this challenge useful and you're ready to take your M-shaped career to the next level, I suggest you watch our video on environmental psychology. It will show you how to engineer your space so you never need a detox again. Thanks for watching. I hope this gives you the fresh start you've been looking for. Go find your silence. I'll see you in the next one.